Welcome to NAR's first conference year-round series. We're going to be talking about how prioritizing wellness can level up your career. I'm Christine Hansen, and I am so excited to be here with all of you today. So let's get started. We all live in a different world today than we did just over a year ago. Big things have changed and little things have been changed. Our ability to understand what these changes mean to us and how we get to move forward in our lives with them is such a priority. Today, we are wanting the focus to be on you. Whether you are adapting wonderfully to all the shifts, or having a bit of a struggle to see where you exactly fit in right now, today's session is for you. You see, every one of us absolutely needs to make self-care and well-being our top priority. However, we haven't really ever been told we need to do this before, or we didn't have the opportunity to really realize it until now. So I want to start today off with bringing us all into the now. So we're going to do a quick breathing exercise that will center you and allow you to have the clarity and the focus as we move into our discussion for today. This is a gift that you're giving yourselves. So I hope you're all ready. So here we go. I want everyone to sit up, put your feet on the floor. Just remove everything from your hands. If you've been sitting for a while, maybe stretch. And now I just want you to take in a nice deep breath. Ready? And then just let it out. Again, please take in a nice deep breath through your mouth. And now I want us to just hold it for a second. And then I want us to release it. Feel your breath filling your lungs, and then feel the release. Now, we're going to take another breath through our nose. And as you inhale in, I want you to count to 3. And as you exhale, slow it down and count to 6. And let's do that twice. Ready? Are you with me? One more time. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out. Notice how you feel. Now, during the day, we tend to store tension in our shoulders. So let's just take a second and bring our shoulders up towards our ears and then just let it drop. Just put your shoulders up and let them drop. Were you holding any tension? How do you feel? And this exercise just took a few minutes. So thank you for allowing me to share these beginning moments with you. And now that we've had a chance to kind of get centered, let's go ahead and move on to our amazing panelist. I am so excited right now to be able to introduce Michelle Billings, who is a Coldwell Banker Realtor, and she is coming to us from Cincinnati, Ohio. And one of the fun things I've learned about Michelle is she likes to share and take her summers at the lake. So a little bit jealous on that one, Michelle. I'd also like to introduce Scott Comey. Now, Scott is a RE/MAX elite broker. He's coming to us from Washington State. And again, he loves to spend his time back and forth in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So lucky both of you. So welcome to the panel and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
so
Christine.
much for having us, Christine.
Oh, so excited. And this is the first one, so we get to really set the stage. So I'm excited. So let's get right to it. I'd like to throw a few questions that I think that the audience would love to hear. So let's start talking about personal strategies for wellness. I think we all need that. So Michelle, why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Thank you. I'd love to. So for me, I am, believe it or not, an introvert. And I have learned that I draw my energy from the inside. So it's very important that I take some time for myself. So in the mornings, I wake up extra early because That's the only time I have to spend by myself to get my thoughts together to start my day intentionally. But the other thing that I've learned about myself and just being a realtor in general, for years, I was a single mom with 4 kids, and they did everything under the sun. And then I had this real estate career. So I'm taking care of kids, I'm taking care of home, I'm taking care of my clients. And sometimes we get lost in that and feel like we need to do everything ourselves. But the one thing that I did learn that really helped me tremendously is to tell other people what I need from them. I'm married now. Um, so I just remember, I mean, we're in this crazy market. I just remember a couple of weeks ago, my husband said, "Hey, did you remember to do X? And I need this." And I stopped and I said to him, I said, "Look," I said, "I am crazy busy. I'm stressed out. And if you ask me for one more thing, I'm going to lose it. So I'm going to need some help." And I didn't really think anything of it until later. I came back home and dinner was done, the laundry was done and folded, and I was able to just kind of sit back. But I've learned that if we don't tell people what we need or how we're feeling, no one can help us. And I think that's a big, that was a big lesson for me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that input. I think that's absolutely huge. Thank you, Michelle. Scott, what about you? What kind of personal strategies do you have for wellness?
Well, first, I'd like to really thank everybody for being on here today and investing in yourself and investing into learning more about health. And I personally have battled health in multiple ways over the years, both physically in gaining lots of weight over the years, specifically when I got into the real estate business. I used to be in retail management, where I would walk around stores all day long, and that helped keep me a little bit skinnier, but in the real estate business, I ended up gaining weight pretty quick, and it's been a struggle to get it back down. And so physically, it's been a challenge. Mentally, it's also been a challenge. This business, as you guys know, is full of lots of highs and lows, and that kind of environment can really cause us a lot of anxiety. And so I have found basically what Michelle said, that asking for help, knowing when I need to ask somebody to help me, and telling them what I need. And I've been coached. I don't sell anymore. But when I did, I was always coached. I'm still coached as a brokerage owner. And a coach just gets more out of you than you can get out of yourself. And so I have found in the past that it's okay to go seek a therapist. In fact, I have one right now that I'm seeing, and I'm not ashamed to say that, and nobody on here should be either. Actually was fortunate enough to be put together with BetterHelp.com. They actually have some very reasonable rates. If you are somebody that struggles with kind of that mental space, but it's been great. It's been a great journey all the way along. And I have learned, in terms of just kind of moving forward over the years, that a couple of tricks that I've done for myself is, my cell phone has been on silent for many years. Even when I sold, you guys, it was on silent. And for some of you, that might give you more anxiety. I don't know. But for me, hearing the little, it's not just a phone call, it's the text message buzz, it's the, Yahoo Finance, it's eBay, I'm selling something on eBay. Boom, there's all those alerts that come through, the notifications, it can cause you anxiety. And so I have learned a trick years ago. I read lots of books, that silencing my cell phone has been a massive help for me personally. So that's one thing. Also, in terms of my physical health, I started to kind of creep up in my weight, and eventually I told my wife, I need to do something to start making a change. But I don't want to just do a diet. I want to do something that could be sustainable. And so she said, let's just go for a 1 mile walk, And so I thought, what's 1 mile going to do? And a walk, what's a walk going to do? And what I learned by then getting up and going for a walk, and eventually getting to walking 1 mile a day, and eventually getting to walking 1.5 miles a day, and eventually getting to walking 2 miles a day, switching it to running 1 mile a day, running 2 miles a day. And now today, a year and a half later, I'm running 2 5Ks and 1 4-mile run every single week, and lost 35 pounds. It's been a journey that has been awesome. You know, my energy level is up. So I think one of the tips was start where you're at. If you're physically, mentally, if you're laying down, just sit up, right? Just make that little switch. If you're sitting up, stand up. If you're standing up, take that first step. And if you're taking that first step, maybe start jogging. So wherever you're at, just take that little extra next step. I also put lots of visuals around me that help keep me motivated. You can see behind me, grateful, thankful, blessed sign. Off to my right, probably your left, here is a thankful tree. So my agents bought me this tree, and they filled out all these cards, things they were grateful for, my wife and I as owners. And I kept all those cards, and I keep every other card that I get from people when they write me a handwritten note. And whenever I'm feeling down, I go to that tree and I read some of those notes. So that has been huge. Screensavers on your laptop, on your phone could be huge. I went to a Brian Buffini conference a while back, and I got this blue bracelet that says, I can, I will, I believe. So we have to constantly keep finding ways to motivate ourselves. And this is just some of the things that I do. The last tip that I'll share, I've got a lot more, but the last one that I'll share is the book, The Miracle Morning. If you guys have not read that by Hal Elrod, there's actually a version for real estate. So Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod. It's an amazing book, and it has absolutely transformed my life, you guys. He talks about savers routines. It's basically 6 steps every morning that you do, starting with silence. So not checking your cell phone, right? Silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing or journaling. So that has been game changer for me. So those are just a couple of tips. And by the way, here's a journal that I use, Positive Disruption. It shares a positive quote every day of the year, and then it asks you a question. And it's really a prompting journal, which is awesome. So.
Scott, that is value. That is so amazing. And just real quick for the audience and the people, when we hear, wow, you know, I walked for a mile and now I'm doing 5Ks. How long did you start with just kind of walking that mile? Can you just share with us a little bit for those of us that maybe have been kind of sitting or standing and we need to take that first step? Tell us the journey, because I want things now. Like if I'm going to do something, I want to do it now. So can you share just a little bit of how to get in the right mind space for that?
Well, like I said, I read a lot. And by the way, I used to not be a reader. I used to not be a runner. I used to not be into eating better. And I used to not be a reader. So I think it's important when you start hearing people say, I read this book, or they recommend a book, that you just try to read that book. If you think it could help you, give it a shot. You might say, I can't focus on reading for a long time, right? Try again, get up again tomorrow and do the same thing. Read 1 page, right? Read for a minute before you go to bed. Do something small. My wife and I have a podcast called Turn the Dial. And the reason it's called Turn the Dial is because we, as brokerage owners, we've been brokerage owners for 13 years. We've realized that sometimes with agents, we have to start where they're at. And sometimes they're in terms of their prospecting, they're not doing much and they don't want to do a ton right now, right? So we kind of start where they're at. So same thing with exercise. If you want it to be sustainable, you got to start small, but just start, right? The compound effect of reading 1 page a day, the compound effect of going out and walking 2 blocks, or on your middle of the day, go for a quick walk. That over time, or getting the salad instead of the fries as your side at lunch, the compound effect of that over time is sustainable. I promise you, I'm living proof of it. I didn't want to do something that's going to get me to lose a bunch of weight only to gain it back, which is what a lot of people do. And our businesses in real estate are built the same way, right? My wife and I in our coaching business, so often agents are trying to find the magic pill to quick success. And it just does not exist. It takes time. Good things take time with your health and with your business.
Well, that's fantastic. Michelle, can you add in some insight?
Yeah, that's awesome, Scott. I think prioritizing yourself is important, and understanding that you can't take care of anyone else unless you take care of yourself first. And we've all heard that when you're on a plane and if it crashes, you put your oxygen mask on first, and that is so true. And we have to understand that that's not being selfish. That's pouring into yourself so that you can pour into others and take care of others. Because if you don't, you won't have the energy or the capacity to do so. I would also add, give yourself grace, like forgive yourself. If for some reason you don't hit the mark that day, you have another opportunity to start over, or you have another opportunity to reset and redo it. But you have to forgive yourself, and you have to provide yourself some grace. So if the laundry, it may get in the washer and the dryer, but it may not get folded. It's okay.
I love that. And I have to imagine, Michelle, you had said that, you were a single mom with 4 kids, and you did say that you had to really take time and choose yourself. But what about all those people that are going to say, well, I feel guilty, shouldn't I be doing more for others and not taking time to myself? How would you kind of handle that when people's thoughts go that way?
I mean, I think that, people do feel guilty, but I think you have to find ways to do that. So for me, the way I did that is I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning because no one else is up. My phone is not ringing. There's no emails coming in. And that's the time I take to say my affirmations, to journal. Sometimes it's just to sit and have a cup of tea or soak in the bathtub or something, but it's something that I'm doing for me. And I get up early and I take my time getting myself together so that when, by 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, when everything's going crazy, it's like, well, I've had that space to really, allow myself to get it together.
That's wonderful. I think, from both of you, what I'm hearing is the fact that this is a priority, is taking care of ourselves first will kind of set the stage and set the pace for everything else in your life. And that we need to be able to start where we're at. And we also have to find and make reasons and times for us to take that time for us. And I think that the audience, all of us have our own different struggles in different ways. So no matter where you're at, just be open and receptive to just hearing things that might just help you make that little kind of that shift. So that's it. So the first thing is that personal strategies of wellness. So now I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. And we're going to now talk about business strategies. So we're changing our focus from ourselves and kind of what we're doing in the wellness arena. And now for business strategies for wellness, Scott, why don't you kind of talk to us a little bit about some of that, and how are we talking about wellness and business strategies? How do they go together? Tell us some of your thoughts on that.
Well, certainly start with what I'll piggyback off what Michelle said about the oxygen mask, right? We have to really take care of ourselves so that our energy level and our mind is sharp enough to then take care of others, people in our family, our friends, and our clients, and, choosing to go into the relationships with the right people is key. For that, one of the techniques that we teach is you should have a mission, vision, and core values for your personal business, whether you're a solo producer or a team. And when you create the vision, the mission statement is more kind of what are you doing now and who are you serving? The vision statement is really wrapped around where do you see your business going and what's your ideal client look like? When you go through that exercise of who your ideal client looks like, then you find yourself choosing to go into relationships with only those people. We have some mantras that we say. It's win-win or no deal. I live in a world of abundance. Those types of things. And if we get in front of the wrong person, we're going to feel totally fine releasing them to someone else. And then that just keeps us sharp, because if you get into a relationship with a client that's going to drag your energy down every time you meet with them, you're not going to be better. Well, for sure, you're not going to be good for yourself, but then also for your other clients. So that's going to be key, is choosing to go into relationships with the right people. For me, when I used to sell, I always took every single Sunday off and half of Friday off. So I took Friday afternoon and every Sunday off. Now, I have gotten so much pushback from agents who don't think it's possible. I'm living proof that it can be done. I was a very high producer, top 1% in the nation when I used to sell, and I was able to do this. The thing is setting the expectations with your clients on the front end. So when you have that buyer's consultation, or when you go on that listing appointment, that you're letting that client know, I don't work on Sundays. I just want to let you know, if you send me a message on a Sunday, I might not return it until Monday. And same thing with Friday afternoons, right? Now, you might want to line up somebody else in the office that can handle any potential showings and that sort of thing that need to happen on only those days. And was it perfect? No, you guys, it wasn't always perfect. There was certainly times where I worked on Sundays or Friday afternoons, but the intention was I blocked out every Sunday and I blocked out half of Friday afternoon. I also, speaking of time block, I time block. And again, this is one of those things that did not come easy to me. It's been 2.5 years in the making, and I'm finally perfecting it. So this is, if you're like, I tried time blocking, people always say time block, it doesn't work for me. I promise you, you guys, it didn't work for me either, but you have to try again, right? Whenever you stop doing something that you know will help you, that's the only time that you're failing, is when you stop trying. So just get back on the horse, try the next day, try the next week, and eventually you won't move those blocks, right? In my Google Calendar, I can click on an appointment and move it really easy. And I used to do that, but now I pretend like it's cemented and I can't move it. And it's okay to tell your clients that, unfortunately, I can't meet at the time that you want to meet because I have another obligation. That's totally fine. And that another obligation might be going to dinner with my wife, So that's a couple of things I wanted to just get to you guys. Make sure you're time blocking also lunch. For so many years, even before real estate, I always hammered through my workday without even eating lunch. And I felt good about that. Like it was some sort of badge that I earned by doing it. But honestly, stopping to take a break, getting some nutritional something in you, and maybe going for a walk, in other words, unplugging, even for 30 minutes, has also been game changer for me, you guys, in terms of freeing up my mind to be a little bit sharper. So now I time block 12 to 1 in my calendar every single day. And I have what I call white space in my calendar, which is between appointments. I leave a little bit of space too to follow up with emails and that sort of thing. So those are just a few things I do.
Thank you. I love that. I love the white space, and I love all the different things that you've said, especially time blocking, because that allows you to kind of get in that zone. So I appreciate that. So Michelle, what about you? What are some of the business strategies that you have for wellness?
So I am a huge time blocker, just because I've always had to be very structured. But within that time blocking, I also, in addition to lunch, I also block out small amounts of time, maybe 15, 20 minutes, so that I can go and sit somewhere and really kind of get me back together. Also, I think and this was very good for me early on, is that I knew I was okay firing a client or a customer, or I was okay choosing not to work with them. And in fact, I had a nice little form letter already prepared that I used to send them. But I agree, you teach people how to treat you. And sometimes with clients, they think that we should be at their beck and call 24 hours a day. And it's just not possible, nor is it healthy or realistic to do such a thing. And so you know, the only time you're going to get an email or a text from me after 8 o'clock, 7 or 8 o'clock, is if we're dealing with a contract deadline. Other than that, my email server, I use Outlook. And so if I need to send a client a message, I will go ahead and type the email up the night before. Like last night I knew that I was going to be on this Zoom. So everybody that I needed to respond to, I typed up the responses in the emails, and then I scheduled to send it first thing in the morning.
That's brilliant.
So that they're not getting an email from me at night, and they're not expecting me to respond to them late at night. So essentially, I've set my own office hours, and I am like Scott too. I take Sundays to myself. A, I like to go to church on Sundays, but B, Sundays just kind of help me reset my week and set the intentions for the week.
So to both of you, or let me just start with Michelle real quick. So what about when you're in the audience, you're listening, and you're saying, yeah, but if I don't take those clients out when they want, or if I don't do this, I'm going to lose them, and kind of coming from a place of fear, what would you say to that? And then Scott, I'll ask you the same question.
Yeah, you don't have to tell the clients what you're doing. Most of my clients just think that I am busy with other clients, and they respect me for that. I never tell them what I'm doing personally. I just tell them that I have an appointment, or, hey, I can't, we can't get into this property until this time. I don't think they need to be privy to everything that you're doing. Also, one of the things that I did leave out is when I have my kids at home, they're all grown and gone and have their own families now, but I always put my family's appointments on my calendar first, and then I worked my work schedule around that. And so I prioritized my family over my business, because family is kind of what keeps me sane. So and your clients don't have to know that. They're not calling their doctor at the wee hours of the night and expecting them to respond.
I love that. Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I loved all that too. I'm actually taking my own notes here. Yeah, conflict only arises when expectations differ, right? So like in Michelle's case, if she's telling them she only works till a certain time, then I know that as her client going into that relationship, right? And as soon as I violate that, Michelle might eventually fire me. Like she said, that she's fired clients in the past, right? Because she wants to protect her family. And I do and did, when I used to sell, the exact same thing. And just setting those expectations on the front end, and then politely reminding them, because early in the relationship, they forget, and I'll get that text message or email that comes in on a Sunday or a call, and I'll call them back that first time and say, hey, just wanted to call you back. I see that you called. As I mentioned, I normally don't work on Sundays, but I'll go ahead and take this call. What can I help you with, right? And that first one, I always kind of give them a gimme, and then that usually is it. So I promise you guys, you're not going to lose clients over this. And back to Michelle's point about the doctors, we're professionals. I like to think that we're at that professional level. And whenever I always teach, whenever you give, whenever you want to go meet with a client, give them the options, right? And give them a few options, 2 or 3 options. So I've got tomorrow at 2 o'clock, or Wednesday at 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. Do any of those work for you? Because that's what your doctor would do, right? That's what a good contractor is going to do. They're not going to tell you, you come in whenever you want and we'll see you right away, right? So it's totally acceptable. And yet we still go to the doctor at the times they give us. And so it can and has been done. And so I guess don't be afraid to work under this kind of framework. And also, this just triggered when Michelle mentioned prioritizing her family. Franklin Covey has an old school video. It's probably from like the early 90s, but it's really cool, and it's really pertinent to this. And it's Big Rocks. If you Google or go to YouTube and you type in Franklin Covey Big Rocks, the video will pop up. It's a fairly short video, but it basically demonstrates what Michelle was talking about. Is picture a jar, and it only has so much capacity, and you've got all these rocks, and you've got these pebbles, and you've got this sand, and you've got this water, and it all has to fit into this small container. How do you get it all in? Well, for you, you want to start with your big rocks first. And the big rocks for Michelle, and it's different for everybody. For Michelle, it's her family. So that needs to go in her calendar first, and they don't get moved. So whatever that is for you, that's what needs to go in your calendar first, and it does not get moved. So.
And can I just add this one thing? I promise you, every time I've moved a client that just wasn't the right fit for me out of the way, I always filled it with a much better, a quality client. So never be afraid to move those people out of the way. A lot of times clients think that we have to work with them, and they don't understand it's a two-way agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such great insight and value. And I think a lot of what I'm hearing from both of you is to really, be in charge of your schedule and your business, and don't lead from fear, but really take that accountability and empower yourself. So I want to switch gears yet again, and I want to talk about strategies for taking care of others and also maybe our team. So, we've talked about some things that have to do with wellness for ourselves. We've just kind of touched upon some things for our business, but now talk to me a little bit, maybe Michelle, about strategies for taking care of others, because we all as realtors, I think we all have big, huge hearts. So what are your thoughts?
I think we have huge hearts. I think this past year, what it has taught us is to not take our relationships for granted. And pick up the phone and call people and check on them and see how they're doing. Because a lot of times we show up looking nice and pretty, or we sound like, oh, we have it all together, when the reality is we're falling apart inside. And if we're having this, these feelings for ourselves, pick up the phone and call your team. And when you're working, if you have a team, or if it's, an admin in the office or what have you, when you ask them how they're doing, don't make it about the business, and let them know it's not about the business. How are you doing? And genuinely take the time to listen to them, because you might be the very person that's able to help them. You don't know where their headspace is, or what they're going through, or what they need. I think it's just important to not take relationships for granted, and to really make the ask and ask them how they're doing, and be empathetic.
I really love that. And I think that that's something that each and every one of us can really kind of hear from your message, Michelle, is, when you are calling someone, be in that present moment and really take that time to hear them. Scott, I know that you have some really good thoughts on this as well. Can you share what, strategies for taking care of others would mean to you?
Yeah, and I'll just kind of start by, like, if somebody on here is either part of a team, or maybe they're a team leader, or maybe they're an office owner even. For us, especially when the pandemic first hit, we kind of crumbled up our old 2020 business plan, and we drafted a 90-day business plan that was very much focused on taking care of our people, and it started with us getting into the mindset of how are we going to do that. We want to make sure that we're constantly reaching out to basically what Michelle said, to make sure that everyone is okay. Is there anything we can do for you? And then we encourage our agents to do the same thing with their clients. So we actually created kind of a Google Share document, and the leaders in my company and we had everybody in our company listed on there, including our staff. And we made it our mission every month to multiple times throughout the month have touch points, check-in points with them, to make sure that there's nothing that they need. So I'm talking things like personal handwritten notes to those folks, calls to them, text messages. I don't know if you guys are familiar with BombBomb. It's one of my favorite tech tools, by the way. BombBomb videos to our people, to just check in and say hello, and to make sure that they're doing fine, and see if there's anything that we can help with. So that has been huge. Also, it's not always are you going to be in an environment where everybody is helping lift up the ship, so to speak, right? And so occasionally we get some bad apples that don't really match our mission, vision, and core values. Another reason why it's important to have that, especially if you are moving towards having a team or if you have a team. But if somebody is bringing down the energy, they're always negative, and that's all they bring into the office, that could start to bring the energy level down and cause negative energy in the office. And so those people, in order to protect the culture, it's time for them to move on, right? And it's okay that you allow that to happen from your team or from your office. And so that's something that we've done over the years to protect our culture. And then also, I would love, by the way, if a few of you guys can do this next thing for your own organization. But because of the position that I'm in, I'm constantly asking my own agents and the people I coach, what do you want out of life? What are your life aspirations? And one of the top things I always hear is, I want to lose weight and get healthier, right? So finally, I'm like, I've got to do something to help with this. And so we created a closed Facebook group for all of RE/MAX. And so it's actually worldwide. We have people from all over the world that are in this group now. And I basically am the admin for that. And all it is, you guys, is there's like a challenge every month, but we kind of cheer each other on. It's not like that public forum where you're constantly bragging about going to the gym, or and the people in your public community maybe are not taking a liking to what you're posting. But in this environment, it's all good, because we want to see more people stepping on the treadmill and just taking that first step, or eating a little bit better, and also sharing ideas. Because we're so busy, we actually named it RE/MAX Busy Life Healthy Living. So by the way, if you're with RE/MAX, search for that, check it out. But for the rest of you, maybe create your own. I would love for some of you guys to, if you feel like you can lead something like that, or maybe find someone that can help lead it, but create that group, because it's a safe space. And meal planning, I mean, there's all kinds of tips in our busy lives, right? Meal planning is huge. Little food items that people are incorporating into like scrambles for breakfast that have been game changer for them. I mean, there's just little tips like that. So that's something in terms of helping others that could be game changer. And also, I just want to say too, I'm talking about, if you have a team or if you have an office, reaching out and staying in touch with those folks. But what about also the vendors, our vendor partners? I would also put those on your list if you're going to reach out to people, your title, escrow, home inspectors. How are they doing, right? So those are just a couple of things.
Thank you. That's a lot of stuff. And one of the things I really love, Scott, is just the fact that there's a couple of things you said that really resonated. Was when you're talking about taking care of others, some of it is having an action item, which would be to create a safe space. And if it's a closed Facebook group, however that could be, because again, we had talked about this when we all were preparing for this session, how, everybody has to go on and we have to look our best on Facebook. And when people say, how are you? We say fine. And that's not always truly the case. And so creating a safe space for people to be real and authentic, or even vulnerable, is huge. And then to cheer each other on. So I absolutely love that. And for all of you that are watching, that's what NAR's focus is doing right now, is we're wanting to create a safe space where everybody's here just to focus on how do we feel a little bit better? And if we're not feeling great, how do we find ways to get there? Or if we're feeling really good, how do we feel better or share that with others? And I just have to applaud NAR for really coming up and caring about us to create this kind of venue. So it's fantastic. So we're gonna switch gears in a minute, but Michelle, do you have any other last comments with regards to taking care of others that you want to, before we get into our next segment?
Yeah, in regards to your team, I mean, I would include them in your business planning. So when you do business planning each year, I think it's important to include them, but I also think it's very important to empower them to grow too, because and offer them some type of incentive, and figure out, like, when you're doing that business planning, not only are you planning for your team, but you're also planning, each of you have like personal goals, and how are you going to hold each other accountable for those personal goals as well. Typically when I'm doing business planning, we plan together, but we also include personal goals, spiritual goals. I think it's you have to be well-rounded in that. Like, you can't just have a business plan and execute it. Like, every part of your life needs to be planned out, and kind of some type of, something needs to be put in place for that.
Absolutely. I think, living with intention is so important, because then we do remember to take time for ourselves and plan in that fun so that we have those times. And I think each one of us in our lives are leading by example for others. People are watching us, and it could be our children watching us. It could be a coworker. If you're a team leader, your teammates are watching you. Even just other people that you don't even know. And so by being vulnerable and being able to share great ideas, or creating safe spaces, or anything like that, really can help us nurture and help others. So I love this. And so now this is one of the fun things, we get to kind of switch gears, and we get to have some talks with all of you. You guys have been amazing. Again, NAR, thank you for having this. Just a quick reminder, remember the breathing that we did, that exercise. It just takes just a minute or two to get yourself centered. Please remember that positive self-talk, because you want to live your life with intention. And if you like this session, we are going to have another one on May 12th, which is Wednesday, May 12th, and it's from 9 to 10 Central Time. And so again, I just hope that every one of you puts yourself first as a priority. Please, please, please take the time that you need. Take care of yourselves, your family, and just wishing you much, much, much success. So thank you everyone for everything. And again, Scott and Michelle, my hat's off to you. Thank you very much. Hope everyone
Thank you,
has a great
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
You know.